I grew up in the United States of America in a family that was very, very committed to our local church. And it was a congregational church that was part of the United Church of Christ, which is roughly the American equivalent to the United Reformed Church. And it's also important to remember that Congregationalism in New England was the tradition out of which Unitarianism in North America grew, out of which developed. And the congregation to which I belonged from birth, I was baptized there, was one of those congregational churches that really took on board the progressive outlook, the ethos of Unitarianism from the end of the 18th century, but didn't change its name. It remained congregational. So I had the benefits of being in a denomination that was accepted by mainstream Christianity, but in a congregation that was extremely progressive for its time, for the 1960s and 70s. So I cannot recall at any moment any homophobic statement ever having been made from the pulpit or by a fellow church member to me directly. There was an overall sense of valuing diversity and applauding people in any field that wasn't destructive or causing harm. So it was a wonderful environment in which to be reared spiritually. So there wasn't a huge leap when I left the congregational tradition to become a Unitarian. And I'll briefly explain how that happened because it's very relevant to what we're documenting today. I was an undergraduate at a university in New England, and adjacent to the campus was a Unitarian church. And one Saturday afternoon, I strolled by and noticed on the notice board that there was to be the appearance of a person who was the very first openly lesbian member of the United States Congress, the House of Representatives, Elaine Noble. And this spiked my interest. I was aware of my sexual identity, really, from day one. There was never a moment when I doubted I was gay. Again, because there was nothing negative in my own immediate environment that taught me that was something to be ashamed of. And as a result of that good experience, I attended a Sunday service, befriended the organist, whom I then began dating, and within a matter of weeks, I was teaching Sunday school. So my transition, my segue, if you will, from the congregational tradition to the Unitarian one was very much within the context of the New England historical framework. So it wasn't a huge leap. My first degree was in comparative religions. It was religious studies. And I valued the Unitarian approach to valuing all faiths and not claiming itself to have a monopoly on truth. So that was a very positive introduction. Through that, I was accepted to train for the ministry and went on to Harvard, but only lasted 3 weeks because I could not really see myself staying in yet another Ivy League institution for another 3 years, mostly with people of the same demographic background as me, white, upper middle class, Ivy League educated. I really felt I needed to experience life more directly and with some challenges that experience I didn't feel would present me. So I left before the term really began, just after 3 weeks, and moved to San Francisco. And I chose San Francisco because it was as far away from Boston, Massachusetts, my hometown, I possibly could get in the 48 contiguous states, but also because I knew there was a Unitarian Universalist theological college in Berkeley, so that if for any reason I felt called to return to training, I knew I had that option, that I wouldn't have to come back to Harvard. Be careful what you wish for. I wanted a real experience and I got it. I arrived just as AIDS broke in the Bay Area, when it rose onto people's radar. These were very early days. And of course, it was a wonderful experience for me pastorally and vocationally to equip me for further ministry. And at the same time, I was able to be hired by an Anglican theological college to be a staff member. I was very, very happy there. And I maintained my identity as a Unitarian, by being involved in my local church in San Francisco. I was a youth leader, I was on the personnel committee, I was a fundraiser, and I was involved in the Unitarian Universalist Christian Fellowship and had other roles. So I maintained my identity as a Unitarian, but was working for the Anglicans. And because of that experience, towards the end of my 4 years in San Francisco, I was asked to lead an ecumenical lay chaplaincy team, gay and lesbian prisoners in the county jail. So those 4 years in San Francisco, really a very intense period of vocational training, of formation, really, for my ministry. And of course, the Bay Area is known for its higher profile, shall we say, of the gay and lesbian community. So that was a very positive aspect of my life there. Whilst my time was coming to an end, I felt it really was appropriate to begin training for ministry. I felt that sense of vocation now. I'd had those experiences that were removed from the ivy-colored walls of academia. And I investigated Great Britain and the General Assembly of Unitarian and Free Christian Churches, because I had been an undergraduate for 1 year in London, and I went to Oxford and attended what was then Manchester College, Oxford, for 4 years of ministerial training and to gain another degree from the university there.